Hey everybody, so I am back and we are going to kick off this month with breast cancer awareness. And I've got Madam Glam's Jasmine Tea. I'm going to lay down this foundation here. Actually, this is one of my absolute favorite colors, so if you haven't tried it, highly recommend it. Next, I'm just going to lay down a top coat to protect my Jasmine Tea. And let's jump into playing with some pinks. All right, so Spirit Guide up first. Gonna go in with my little fine liner brush, and I'm gonna jump into a little story time. So, I do have a history of the women in my family having breast cancer and other forms of cancer. So I have always known to take care of your breast, do your monthly checks, and I actually do have, personally, I have a history of having some lumps and bumps and this and that. So starting at about the age of 18, yearly I would have sonograms. And then starting in my late 20s, I started doing sonograms and mammograms every year. So now it's just kind of old hat for me. I do it every year. And so far, so good. I've only had a couple of surgeries where we just had to go in and kind of take out some things and do some biopsies, and everything has always come back normal. So nothing to fear there. But I do go every year just to make sure that things are on the right track. Another little interesting fact. So in my lifetime, I have had several little careers, and one of them was working for a plastic surgeon. It was a very interesting job, and I learned a lot, a whole lot. But one of the things I took away from that job is the women that I worked with, and a lot of the patients who had come in were women who struggled with breast cancer, and whether it was something that they had just gone through and they had had mastectomies and were coming in to kind of get things in a little bit better shape, or a little bit something a little bit more livable that they could work with. Those women were absolutely interesting, and their stories were fascinating, and I loved working with them, and I loved being a part of their journey. But another thing was that there were a lot of women who were worried about having breast cancer, and so they would come in to have tissue, breast tissue removed, and sometimes they would just kind of fix up whatever they had left, and other times they may choose to have implants and whatnot. Those women, working with them, I learned so much. They were just brilliant women and had a lot to give the world and a lot of life left. And although it's been many, many years, I hope that those women are doing well today. I have no doubt that they are taking care of their breast and their health, and hopefully they're living a fabulous life now. Yeah, that was a very interesting work experience, and if you ever get the opportunity, you can definitely learn a lot in that field. And when I started that job, I remember I had been working with doctors, and so this particular plastic surgeon was hiring for someone to answer the phone and to book appointments and talk about like a little bit of the procedure and the length of time it would take, run the insurance, yada yada. I was in that position for only maybe a couple months, and then I quickly got kind of moved into a role that I had no idea existed, and it was basically taking care of these women's breasts after they had had surgery. So if you didn't know, whenever you have breast surgery, they manipulate your muscles and your tissue as well, of course, but the muscle is the main thing that kind of fights that process. And so whenever these women, after they would have their surgeries, they would come in and they would have to have someone to massage the tissue and relax that muscle, to get it to stop spasming or stop, staying in a really, really lifted position, because it would just be agitated and inflamed. So I would spend a lot of time with them, and we would work out that muscle and get it to relax and kind of see how everything was healing. And I would see these women on a daily basis for a long time. And yeah, so when I tell you, I learned a lot from them. We had a lot of time to talk, and yeah, it was very, very interesting. I learned a whole lot from them, especially the importance of continually checking for any kind of lumps and bumps. And if you do have lumps and bumps, one thing that I did was, so when I first noticed my first one, like I said, I was 18 and I was yawning, and I remember I yawned and I just kind of like ran my fingers over the top of my chest, kind of like right underneath the collarbone, and I noticed a little lump, and it was very small, but I was like, I don't think I've ever noticed that before. So I just kind of, in my little daily journal, I kind of made a note. And after a couple weeks, it just kind of felt a bit again to see if it was still there, if it was something that went away. And I realized it did not go away. And actually, it felt like it had grown, possibly in size. So because I felt like it had grown, but it hadn't grown so much where it was like extremely noticeable. So then I just kind of started drawing in my little journal, like I would draw best I could, like the size that I thought it was. So like maybe the first time it was like a pea size, and then, 2 weeks later when I felt it, it was more of a marble. So, I drew a little marble, and oh goodness, like 3 weeks later, when I checked, it was kind of like the size of like a small golf ball. And I made an appointment, of course, with a breast specialist here in Dallas, and her name is Dr. Laidley. She's absolutely phenomenal. And I went in to see her. She said, definitely that's something that we need to, get some images of, and then decide whether we need to remove it or whatnot. So went across the street, had my images done, and she called me right back and said, okay, we need to go ahead and schedule to get this out so we can look at it more closely and figure out what it is. So I went in and I had my first surgery to have a lumpectomy. And by the time I got out of surgery, they told me everything was fine. It was, benign. No need to worry. I felt like a huge weight had been lifted off of my shoulders, or my chest, I should say. The interesting thing was they told me that little golf ball that I was feeling actually turned out, when I went in the day I had my surgery, which was maybe a week later, it had gotten to the size of a grapefruit, which I could not even imagine. So it must have been really, really deep. I don't know, but that definitely worried me because I was surprised at how fast it grew. So after that, probably about a year later, when I went back to have my follow-up sonogram, they found several more little bumps that we started paying attention to. And again, there was another one that just kind of started to grow and was bothering me, and I was worried about it. So we went in, had another lumpectomy again. Everything came out benign, thank God. And from then on out, every year when I would go in, we would find more, and we would watch them as they grew or didn't grow or this and that. It's very, very interesting. For a long time, I wanted to get into sonography because I was just so fascinated with that machine and all that it could tell. And it was just, it meant everything to me to have some peace of mind that everything was being taken care of, and that these were people that were not going to let breast cancer come into my life and us not address it. So I luckily, because I just would continue to go every year, and then we started including mammograms along with that process, which if you have not had either a sonogram or a mammogram of your breast, extremely easy process. Very, very easy. No reason not to go in and be checked out. So schedule your appointment if you haven't. Remember to check your breast every month. Just feel around and notate if anything is different. All right, guys, that is it for my nails and for my little story time. So I will get off my soapbox. I hope you enjoyed the little tutorial, and I will catch you soon.